What's up, guys? Blade Master here. Going to be giving you a quick overview or quick update of Blade Balance. Now, I figured this would probably be a good idea since it's been like a week since Blade Balance is released, and thanks to everyone who've shown support to the mod. This is awesome. I never really expected so many people to really be cool with this idea, considering how many how old Blade, how old Rome 2 multiplayer is, and how the metagame has evolved and has kind of consolidated. But it's clear, like, people know that the game needs balancing, and that's the aim of this mod. It's not to completely change everything; it's to fine tune the balance. I'm just going to be showing you like some footage from a really cool battle that I'll upload separately. So the biggest changes. Let's go over the biggest changes in the mod. By far the biggest change in the mod is that all melee infantry, not all melee infantry, mainly the barbarian, think of the overpowered, the really strong barbarian infantry, have one less precursor volley. They used to have two, and now they have one. So we've literally reduced their precursor javelin ammo by one, which automatically buffs up anything that's vulnerable to javelins. So cavalry, especially shock cavalry, you have your regular swordsmen, like your thorax swordsmen and your cartly axemen. The ones that are not as strong as the barbarian infantry, they're a bit stronger now because they have one extra precursor volley compared to the barbarians. And so that helps out quite a bit. And I always felt that having so many precursors was a bit excessive. Elephants and chariots are now much more viable because it's going to be easier for you to just swarm your opponent and maybe absorb as many of his of the precursor volleys from all of his units, and then your elephants and your chariots can run loose, and they don't have to fear getting shot at and getting slaughtered in one shot by the enemy. So that's why I think that's the biggest change in this mod. But then again, it's not something that's very prevalent, but I think it still helps improve the balance of Rome 2 quite a bit. The second biggest change in the mod is that sword cavalry are back to being very powerful. There are three sword cavalry in the game. There's the mercenary companion, there is the Aspis companion, and there is the Iberian cavalry. Iberian cavalry, not very powerful, not meant to be powerful, they're pretty cheap. Mercenary companion and Aspis companion, very expensive, 1300 and 1290 talents respectively, and just super expensive but super powerful now. They destroy infantry, and that's because, and they used to not destroy infantry because one, all infantry had two precursor volleys, and two, Mercenary Companion and Aspis Companion used to have 10 bonuses versus infantry. In the latest patch of Rome 2, in like patch or whatever, in after Emperor Edition, they got all of that got removed. So we've put back the 10 bonus versus infantry for Mercenary Companion. Initially it was 13, we narrowed it down to 10, and they are still incredibly powerful. They're tanky enough that they can actually withstand enemy melee cavalry. So they seemed a bit overpowered, which is why we made a smaller, more minor change in that we've reduced the missile block chance of both of these units by 5%. Now, the Mercenary Companion have only a 20% missile block chance, and the Aspis Companion only have a 30% or a 25% missile block chance. So either ways, they're going to be pretty vulnerable to missiles. Sure, it's still going to take a long time to kill them off because they have a huge amount of armor at 90 and like 100, I think, for the Aspis Companion. So that, I think, is the second biggest. By the way, should have probably mentioned this earlier. The if you want to play this mod, is the best idea is to go to the discussions tab in the mod page. The mod page and the discussion tab will be kept in. Will have links in the description. And the reason why I say the discussions page is because I've started a forum there, or a thread, where you can just all you need to do is put your your time zone when you can play, and you can find other people who are in similar time zones who want to play with Blade Balance, and you can just add them on Steam and then organize a game with them. It's going to be very easy that way. Probably should have done that when we started the mod, but anyways, so that's going to be a very easy way for you to organize games. So this little engagement right here leads me to the third big change in the mod, and that is all elite shock cavalry have trample. So that again buffs up the cavalry. Cavalry was not really a big threat in Rome too. Heavy horse played a very important role, but a very secondary role, which I think most melee cavalry still play, a secondary but important support role. But we never really saw shock cavalry being brought by anyone except maybe by Parthia, because Royal Cataphracts and Eastern Cataphracts are just that strong. And part of a big reason why they were so strong is because they had trample. Trample might seem like a slight buff to many people. I think it's a very powerful buff, especially when used at the right conditions. Here you can see my Pergamene Noble Cav just slaughtered one of the, possibly the tankiest, or one of the three tankiest units in the game in the Mercenary Companion Cav. They've gotten 12 kills on the charge, basically one-shotted this cavalry unit, because they have a 10 bonus versus large, and by using trample I get their charge bonus from their base 82 to 123, which is just insane. Now, the very keen observer might just remember or might recall that Pergamene Noble Cav don't have such a high charge bonus. And that leads me to one of the minor changes for the Pergamene Noble Cav. Pergamene Noble Cav now have, we've buffed up Pergamon quite significantly. Pergamene Noble Cav have, let's see, they have a higher melee attack of, I think we increased their melee attack by 5 or 6, and increase their charge bonus by 6. They used to have 76, now they have 82 charge bonus, which means they really can one-shot most cavalry. They are I think they have they definitely have, or they are the unit with the highest charge bonus in the game. They are still very heavy, so that means they can do this to cavalry. They just hit that Carthaginian cav, got 13 kills on the charge, but they still have severe weaknesses, which is why I think that this is a really fun unit. They still have really poor armor, so they can get slaughtered by missiles, and they just won't last very long in general, but they will do a shit ton of damage. They're probably the unit that most closely resembles Attila cavalry. So here you can see my Pergamene Noble Cav. They cost 1200. Managed to destroy this Mercenary Companion at which costs like 1290. They're very good against enemy cavalry, because I say the reason they're very good against enemy cavalry is because, one, they don't need to fear any Precursor javelins, and two, many times in Rome 2 you don't see cavalry being supported by infantry very heavily. So in those one-on-one engagements, that's really their bread and butter, the Pergamene Noble Cav. Another Pergamene unit that has been buffed up pretty significantly is the Agema Spears. The Agema Spears now are very heavy. They used to be medium, now they're very heavy, which is a huge mass buff for them. It increases their charge bonus, it increases the impact damage of the charge, it increases their tankiness. It's all in all a very strong buff for them. And we've also increased their charge bonus a little bit, and their melee attack, no, we will only increase their charge bonus a little bit. So right now, if you fire all the javelins of an Agema Spear and then charge into a Thorax Swordsman, then you can beat a Thorax Swordsman, which was absolutely not the case before. So that is another, so that in that sense we've buffed up Pergamon in two ways. The third way that we're buffing up Pergamon, and this is not done yet, we want your help. We've started a separate mod called Blade Balance Test. Regarding this, it's about the Pikemen. We're testing right now. We've already given Pikemen in the base mod. Pikemen now have a 5 bonus versus infantry, which actually honestly makes them pretty darn effective from the front. But we are now testing Pikemen with 180 units versus 120 usual army, trying to see if that really makes much of a difference. So far it hasn't really made much of a difference, but I think it improves their efficiency a slight bit. But yeah, it's still a WIP, still a work in progress. But yeah, that once we hopefully if we try and figure that out, then Pergamon can be a fairly decent army. I already love to play Pergamon because the Pergamene Noble Cav and Agema Spears are just a really fun unit. So another big change in going back to general changes now is that Barbarian and Iberian Spear units, or basically just Barbarian Spear units, have scalable Precursor ammo. Now this is one thing that you guys probably have heard about before. It's one of the first changes that I made in the mod. It's that I've basically made it so that there's a bigger reason for you to bring elite spears and mid-tier barbarian spears, which are units that we never ever saw the barbarians bring. Now, especially with the loss of Precursor for most sword infantry, with the the trample ability available for all elite shock cavalry. It definitely seems like I've buffed shock cavalry quite a bit, and most cavalry quite a bit. And to kind of counteract that, since the barbarians don't have great cavalry on their own, I've given them the ability to bring the more expensive spears, who are by far the best cavalry killing machines in the game. 200 to 500 cost spears have one precursor volley, which is the exact same as melee infantry. 500 to 800 cost spears have two precursor volleys, and you have to imagine that tying this in with the cavalry counter tactics just would let them slaughter cavalry. 800 plus cost spears, which are the elite spears, have a whopping 3 precursor volleys. Basically, it means that they will absolutely have precursor javelins even until end game. It's very, very difficult for you to lose 3 precursor volleys unless you genuinely, absolutely, massively fuck up. So yeah, in that sense, these guys, if you bring noble spears, elite tier spear units like that, you can be assured that they will have precursor volleys, and they will definitely be a force to be reckoned with if the enemy is bringing a lot of cav. So let's go ahead and see this Pergamon noble cav going to charge and trample. This is one of those engagements that they really like, I think. It's just a clear 1v1 engagement. They didn't get the best charge, but they still managed to slaughter 11 mercenary companion on the charge. Honestly, these Pergamon noble cav might just be better without using trample, because they have really high melee attack. So without using trample, the trample obviously has huge fatigue penalties. So you can see that it was fresh, now it's down to very tired, which reduces melee attack and stuff. So by not using trample, maybe you can leverage their high melee attack and thus win the game. But you can see now the Pergamon noble cav, they start to drop very quickly after the charge, since they're tired, and since there are precursors there, these guys are going to drop very, very quickly. So Pergamon noble cav, one of my favorite units, just need to use them very, very carefully. The fourth big change, fourth major change in the mod, as you can see with these 2 elite javelin cavalry, the mercenary Numidian noble cavalry, these guys have 10 ammunition, and that's the same case for all skirmish cav that have 41 missile damage. That is the horse skirmishers, the Numidian cavalry, and the Numidian nobles, and the Cantabrian cavalry, and some of the elite nomadic horse skirmishers as well. I always felt that these guys were kind of underrepresented in Rome 2 multiplayer, and now they really can. Like, Cantabrians are almost a staple of any Iberian army now. They are just very, very useful mid to late game, and now you don't need to be worried about turning off fire at will and stuff. They have 10 ammunition, which is just perfect, and they can be very, very deadly. And that's fine, because all of these units are very expensive. Cantabrian cavalry is a whopping 500, I believe. And so is the Numidian cavalry, and the Numidian nobles are, I think, 1180 or something. So they can be very, very deadly units now. Still, don't want to waste your ammo on Levy Pikemen like that. Then let's go ahead with the other. There's one more big change. Actually, 3 or 4 more big changes. Another big change is that Dacian units now have precursors, which I always wanted to give Dacian units or Gedi precursors, because they are a barbarian faction. They were kind of gimped by the fact that they didn't have precursors, and now they have basically the same precursor thing that's going on for all the other barbarian units. Of course, the Foxes don't have precursors, but the noble swords, they do. Basically, the Dacian spears now have scalable precursor ammo. Another big change for nomads, and the way we will see nomads being played out, is that all step horse archer units that cost 450 talents or more now have 20 ammo, which is a 5 whole extra volleys of ammunition. So that forces that definitely encourages the nomad player to be a lot more patient. And the reason why I made this change is that nomads are definitely will be very, very tough to play with if the enemy just brings a barbarian spear spam. He can bring a lot of noble spears, and they have so many precursor volleys. So to kind of counteract that, now I've given the mid-tier and elite tier horse archers of the nomads a shit ton of ammo. So 15 to 20 is just a huge increase. And again, it's one of those things, you can just let them, you don't need to turn off fire at will. You can just let them, run around, just cause a ruckus. The fact that Levy Freeman have have very little precursor ammo now means that the barbarians won't be able to send very cheap meat shield units to chase after them, and it just brings a whole different, really cool dynamic into a barbarian spear or a Hellenic spear box versus or spear defense versus a nomad army. Speaking of spears, elite hoplites. So the barbarian spears aren't the only ones that get buffed. The elite hoplites of all the Hellenic factions. You have Seleucids with the shield bearers, Macedon with the shield bearers, Bactria with the Bactrian Royal Guard, and even Sparta with the heroes of Sparta used to have only 29 melee damage spears. That is actually a shittier melee damage than weapon damage than the thorax hoplites. The thorax hoplites were the ones that had the elite spear with 30 weapon damage, and it just made absolutely no sense that the shield bearers and all of them didn't have that. So now we've given all the elite hoplites, that is shield bearers, Bactrian Royal Guard, heroes of Sparta, and Sacred Band of Carthage, 30 damage spears. Of course, thank you to the users who pointed that out to me. That wasn't, a change that I had in mind, but it was, a lot of you guys commented on the mod page, and yeah, we listened to you. That was a very good suggestion. Spartan hoplites now have been given the 29 damage semi-elite spear. That's the spear that the shield bearers and and all of them used to have. So the Spartan hoplites have been given the 29 damage spear, just to give Sparta a boost. They don't have any swords, and Spartans were always supposed to be the best spear infantry, hoplite infantry in the game. So now they have that going on for them. Other minor changes that can also significantly actually help specific factions. Noble fighters, mercenary noble fighters, and Lusitania nobles now have the shield wall ability. Shield wall will definitely help out these Iberian factions quite a bit. And now even Carthage can afford to bring the elite melee infantry, because noble fighters and all of them, they have good. They're actually very good now. Huge change for Seleucids. Azat Knights now only cost 1080. They used to cost 1300, and it's a massive price buff for them. They're now only 1080, and they're actually very decent units now. They're not overpowered by any means. At the end of the day, they're still a melee cavalry unit, but they're just excellent against enemy cavalry, and they have very good armor, a very tanky unit, and for 1080 you're absolutely getting your money's worth. Agema spears, already talked about them. Royal Peltis used to be heavy for some reason. In the latest patch they got changed to heavy. Now we put them back to very heavy, and again now they're quite decent. Britain's slingers for Iceni now have access to the quick reload ability. I'm not completely convinced of this idea. The only reason I put that in was because I thought that Iceni might just get really gimped with this with all the changes going on. So I've given them access to given the slingers access to quick reload. They can be a very deadly force now, possibly too deadly. If you guys test out the Iceni, if you play Iceni in Blade Balance, please let me know if you think the Britain slingers are in any way overpowered, but please don't make a comment saying that Britain slingers are OP without testing them. Thracian slingers, this is another really cool, this is one of those changes that I really like. Thracian slingers, which are the slingers for Odrysian Kingdom, now have shields with the same missile block chance as the ones used by Germanic slingers. So that is, they have the best missile block chance in the game. They have, I think, a 50% missile block chance, the Thracian slingers, which completely changes the dynamic of Odrysian Kingdom. Now, Odrysian Kingdom don't have many units that have good missile block chance. In fact, all the Fox units have 0 missile block chance, and their slingers also sucked. So you couldn't really play the waiting game, and you couldn't play the skirmish game with them, because at the end of the day you are going to lose the skirmish battle. And now with the Thracian slingers having the best missile block chance in the game, you can very effectively counter heavy skirmishers brought by your enemy. By bringing these guys, you can just put them up in the front, let them soak up all the missile fire. They don't have they're very cheap, they don't cost a lot, and with that's just the perfect addition for Odrysian Kingdom. You can see they only cost 280. They have, I think, 50% miss block chance now, and good shots per minute. They're going to do just fine against enemy slingers, especially like Eastern slingers or something. who themselves have very low missile block chance. What else? Thracian Slingers. Oh, another nice change. Kind of probably would get unnoticed most of the time. The Agrianian Axemen now used to have 7 ammunition. They now have 10 ammunition. They cost 500 talents. I don't know why they didn't have 10 ammunition in the first place. You never see anyone bring them. Now they can actually be a potent potent late game force, because 10 ammunition means that they might have ammo left at the end of the game, and even once they run out of that, they have a great charge bonus, good melee attack and weapon damage to follow up with. Aspis Companions and Companion Cavalry have 5% less missile block chance, like I said. Picked Peltists, which are for where's Chimeria? Which are for Chimeria, and for Pergamon, another buff for Pergamon, have both precision shot and quick reload. Again, the theme of this mod is to help players. Well, it's to buff factions, not just, how do I want to fucking put this? The point of this, if the point of buffing a lot of these factions is not to just purely buff them, it's to put it in the hands of the players. So I'm giving people the option, so they can be very powerful if used right. Like the Pick Peltis already were a decent force, very, very good. It's just that factions like Chimeria needed that extra little boost, and I'm not going to give that just a pure boost, like by basically just reducing the price of Chimeria Noble Infantry or something like that. Instead, I'm going to give you guys the impetus. Like, if you can use precision shot and quick reload at the right units, you can snipe off a general in a matter of seconds, which could just help you win the game easily. So it's stuff like that. It's these changes. This is the type of thing that I'm trying to do with the mod. Put more impetus on the player to use the faction right to win him the game, and thus balance the game. By the way, the noble horse archers and the armored horse archers used by Chimeria are of the nomadic variety, so they actually do get 20 ammunition cavalry, which could be really, really cool. You have some really heavy ammunition cavalry, really good heavy archers, and you've got hoplites. I might have to give these guys a good shot now. And one more big thing for Odrysian Kingdom: the Thracian nobles have 5 higher melee defense. Thank you to Aronco for putting a small shield for these guys. The shield doesn't affect their missile block chance. They still have 0, I believe, and it only affects their melee defense. They now have a shield value of 5, which improves their staying power a little bit. And I think that's about it. The next big changes will be to pikes. Again, I'm not trying to put in units, change rosters or something. That's a bit too drastic, and that's going to make the mod too unfamiliar for other people to get into. So I really don't plan on doing that. Plan on instead tweaking the factions like I've done so far. I'm planning to make the Egyptian cavalry a camel unit, so that we can actually have a nice camel unit at the end of the day. Give camel archers Parthian shot, although we ran into some problems giving camel units Parthian shot for some reason. We'll have to wait and see if that can be made. And yeah, the next big change is trying to buff pikes slightly. Keep in mind, very slight. Maybe even leave pikes the way they are, because right now I've played a game, levy pikes doing a fair bit of damage. I have to say, 5 bonus versus infantry, they're doing very well. Might just leave it with them getting higher amounts of men. And that's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this rather lengthy overview, but comprehensive overview of all the changes and basically a week 1 update of Blade Balance. Let me know if you guys want me to do this for week 2 or make this a continuous thing. Yeah, and got some more plans for Blade Balance, but I'll keep that as a surprise. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more. Peace.